What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today we have an excellent deck list planned for you. I am very excited about this one. People always ask me for updated versions of Green Fasa since I did the Mufasa Kicker list during set 3. Today I wanted to deliver a little bit earlier into set 5. During set 4 I didn't get it out until my very last deck list of the set, so people didn't get a lot of time to play around with it. But for set 5 I want to get something out a little bit earlier, and I think this deck is in a better position than ever before. We have moved away from the Rockstar Stitch, but we've got some new stars in the deck. Just a heads up to some of those new players out there, this is one of the most costly decks I have ever built in terms of the amount of legendaries that it does use. So if you're a new player looking to build a deck, this one may not be for you, but it may give you some great ideas for what you want to do in the future or cards you may want to prioritize for your own collection. Big shout out to the Patreons. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. You are truly so important to the function of everything, and especially to the giveaways we are doing. We are only a few hundred subscribers away from 2,000, and we'll have another booster box giveaway coming at you. And we do have a Patreon exclusive giveaway for a Maleficent Dragon happening right now, and there's only a few people in the Patreon, so there's always good chances to win stuff over there. So if you haven't joined the Patreon, definitely go check that out. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's deck list. Green Fasa. The first card we are playing, and this is going to be a 2 of, is going to be Cur Murol, Ursula's Handiwork, a 0/1 for 1. Is going to be questing for 2, and when this character is banished in a challenge, he is going to be making your opponent discard, so fantastic ability. Great way to put a little bit of pressure on right at the beginning of the game. Another new addition putting some great pressure on right at the beginning of the game is going to be Daisy Duck Donald's Date, a 1/4 coming down for 1, another uninkable card, but she is questing for 2, and when she quests you're going to be looking at the top card of your opponent's deck, and they are going to be having the option to put it into their hand if it is a character. I would imagine in most cases they are going to choose to do that. But if it's a non-character, you may just be sending it to the bottom of their deck, can keep away Be Prepared and other things like that. Then another new addition from set 5, we are on 4 Clarabelle, Clumsy Guest. She is a 1/2 for 1, quest for 1, and when she comes down she has a kind of kicker cost that you can pay if you're familiar with Magic. So you can pay 2 to go ahead and banish an item, which makes her just fantastic throughout the course of the entire game. Not only is she going to be good as an early shift target, but she is also going to be your relevant item removal in these colors. That was something this deck was really suffering from during the last set. We had things like Wildcat, but it was just like a little clumsy feeling, whereas Clarabelle can come down right on par with a Fishbone Quill and wipe it off the board when it's necessary. Then another way to just kind of get some control out of the game in colors that typically don't have a lot of it, especially for the board, we are playing 4 Ursula Deceivers, 1/3 for 2, quest for 1, and when she comes into play, not only are you going to get to look at your opponent's hand, which is good in and of itself, but you are going to be able to choose a song card from it and make them discard it. Just about every deck out there right now is playing songs. Aggro might not be, some aggro decks still are. You are generally going to be getting some value out of her. Maybe in that aggro matchup you go ahead and just anchor. Then next up in the 2-drop slot we are on 4 Flynn Rider, Charming Rogue. He is a 1/2 for 2, quest for 2, and does have the same ability as Cursed Merfolk. When he is banished in a challenge, your opponent is going to go ahead and discard a card. Then our last 2-drop, and you'll see later why we are choosing to play this, but we do have Simba, Protective Cub, a card that isn't seeing as much play in the set 5 meta, wasn't seeing as much play during set 4, but I think is really good in particular combinations in this deck. It is a 2-cost, 2/3, questing for 1, and it does have bodyguards that can potentially protect those turn 1 plays. Then last up in the 2-drop slot we do have 2 The Bare Necessities. Even though this is the type of deck that it is, I think it's still well worth it to be playing. The Bare Necessities, one of our few non-character cards in the deck, just to be able to snipe out those items, those locations, and even sometimes those songs when it is relevant. First in the 3-drop slot, another potential shift target, we do have 2 Clarabelle, Contented Wallflower, a 2/3 for 3, questing for 1, and when she comes into play, if your opponent has more cards in their hand, which more often than not they're going to when you're playing this color combination, you're going to go ahead and draw a card. Then another great way to draw a card, you know him, you love him from the Bucky deck lists of yore. We do have 4 Diablo, Devoted Herald. You'll notice that in this deck I am not playing the shift line for Diablo. That is simply because we don't have a lot of actions to discard, so it didn't seem to play as well as you would like. The cool thing with Diablo and Mufasa in particular is if you are hitting Diablo off of Mufasa, even though he is a cheaper character, he is going to come into play exerted based on Mufasa's ability, so he's going to be immediately netting you that value if your opponent wanted to draw any additional additional cards during the turn, but he's a 3-cost 2/2 uninkable character. Does have shift, as I mentioned, which we're not using in this deck. He is evasive, and during each opponent's turn, whenever they draw a card, you are going to be able to go ahead and draw a card as well. Then next up in the 3-drop slot, and the last card in the 3-drop slot, we are playing another card of old that people haven't been in, that hasn't been in as much favor, I think, in recent deck lists. But we do have 4 Doc, Leader of the Seven Dwarfs. I think some of these cards are really getting a good time to shine, to come back around, with Ruby Amethyst being less plentiful in the current meta. People are playing more different color combinations. He was really kind of a feel bad, particularly against Brawl in that matchup. Dies unfavorably to things like Madam Mim Fox. So getting those deck lists away a little bit and seeing people playing something different, Doc may have a place to shine. But he is a 3-cost 2/3. He's an inkable. He is going to quest for 2, and when he quests, you're going to be able to make your next character cost 1 less, which is great on curve with all of your 5-cost characters, because he's going to come down, he's going to quest that next turn, and then you're playing a 5-cost on turn 4. In the old deck list from set 3, if you were around for that with the channel, you may know already, but we were playing Pluto, so we go turn 1 Pluto, turn 2 Doc, and then turn 3 with a 5-drop, but it was a very greedy play line. Next up, we do have 4 Rapunzel, Gifted with Healing, our only 4-cost character in the deck, our only 4-cost card in the deck, really. She is a 1/5 stat line, questing for 2, and has one of the best abilities in the game still to this day. When you play this character, you may heal one of your characters for up to 3 damage, and for every damage removed, you may go ahead and draw a card. So just absolutely aggressive. Then our first 5-drop in the deck, we are playing 2 Cricky, Lucky Cricket, 5-cost 3/4, quest for 3, and when you play this character, your other characters get +3 attack this turn. Then a card I think was a definite 4 of in this deck list, but another 5-drop. We are on 4 Kita, Protector of Atlantis, 5-cost 3/5 stat line, questing for 2. She is a shift for 3. We are not playing the shift target for this Kita, however. That is just not as relevant to us when we are playing the Mufasa playline, and when you play this character, all characters get -3 attack until the start of your next turn. So she is coming to play Exerted when she is entering play to Mufasa. However, she is going to be giving all your opponent's characters -3 right away, so they may still not be able to take her off the board, which is what makes that play kind of interesting. Then we have the star of the show, 4 Mufasa, Betrayed Leader, 5-cost 3/3, questing for 2, and when this character is banished, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a character card, you may go ahead and put it into play for free, Exerted, and if it's not, it goes back on the top of your deck. And this is what's making those 2-cost characters so very good in this deck, and that is going to be Prita, Devoted Mother, an absolutely playable card, a card I think is fantastic and just hasn't gotten enough love ever since it came out all the way back in set 3, but it is a 6-cost uninkable. I think that's one of the things that hurts it. If it cost 5 or was an inkable, maybe people would be more prone to play it, but it is a 1/6 stat line, questing for 2, and when it comes into play and whenever it quests, so it's doing this multiple times potentially, you're going to be able to go ahead and recur one of those 2 or less cost characters from your discard directly back into play. So you can take something like Simba, put it back into play, you could put it back into play Exerted, and have a bodyguard in play immediately. If you're hitting this with Mufasa, you're getting double value off of it. You can bring those Flynns back, so if they want to go ahead and challenge into it, now they're looking at discarding a card when that's relevant. You can bring those Ursulas back, get to look at your opponent's hand again, and potentially rip another song away from it if they're in a song heavy build. You can even go ahead and bring those 1-drop back if you need just a shift target for Clarabelle, so you have a lot of potential value off of Perdita. Then first up in the 7-cost slot, we are on 2 Stitch, Carefree Serfer, another card that I think just isn't seeing as much play in the current meta, but is still a card that absolutely shines with something like Mufasa in the deck. He is a 7-cost inkable, 4/8 stat lines. He stays out of range of things like Medusa, which is fantastic. He is going to be questing for 2, and when he comes into play, and you most likely have 2 characters in play, you're going to be drawing 2 cards, so getting that extra value out of him as well. Then a 1-of in the 7-drop slot, just because this isn't a super princess heavy deck, but when this card can work, it can work. Not only that, its stat line is fantastic, so if you're hitting it with Mufasa, it definitely always feels good. But we do have Wreck-It Ralph, Admiral Underpants, 7-cost uninkable, 6/7 stat line, so one of the best stat lines in the game. Going to be questing for 2, and when you play this character, so if you're hitting him off of Mufasa, that counts as playing him. You're going to be able to return a character card from your discard pile to your hand, so kind of working like Hades. You can hit any character with this, but added bonus with that, if you're hitting a princess character like Rapunzel or Kita, you are going to be able to go ahead and gain 2 lore as well. Then part of what it made me want to explore this color combination again, and you may have guessed this when I was talking about the shift lines and all that stuff, maybe not even guess, I might have straight up given it away, is for Clarabelle light on her hooves. You've heard me talk about her before, but she is a 7 cost inkable 5/6 stat line, fantastic stat line. Questing for 2, shifting for 5 onto any of those 6 shift targets that are in the deck, the 2/3 cost and the 4/1 cost. At the end of each of your turns, you're going to be able to go ahead and draw cards equal to the difference between the cards in your hand and the cards in your opponent's hand. So if your opponent has 4 cards, you have 1 card, you're going to be drawing 3. If they have 7 and you have 0, you're going to be drawing 7, which is absolutely ridiculous. Clarabelle really shaking up the meta right now. Then the second to last card in the deck, you may have guessed this is the other non-character card we are playing, but we are on 4 Under the Sea. Definitely super possible to get this off with a 1 cost character and one of those 7 drops, a 2 cost character and one of those 6 drops, etc. But we have 3 Under the Sea. It is an action song. It is a sing together song, so you're going to be able to sing it with multiple characters. It is an 8 cost uninkable, and put all opposing characters with 2 or less attack on the bottom of their player's deck. If you already have a couple characters out that can sing this and you throw that Kita down, you're going to be able to wipe your opponent's board pretty entirely. So Under the Sea is just fantastic in this deck. And last card in the deck, this is mainly for the Mufasa lottery, or if you just happen to end up with a lot of characters in your discard and you have this guy in your hand, he is a 10 cost uninkable Chernobog Evildoer, 9/9 stat line, so I think possibly the best stat line other than Goofy, who isn't really seeing play. He is questing for 3, which is incredible, and for each character in your discard you're going to pay 1 less to play him, so you may be able to get him out for 5 or 6 as opposed to 10. And when you play this character, shuffle all characters from your discard back into your deck, so if somebody's trying to mill you, you're going to be avoiding that with something like Chernobog Evildoer. But that is wrapping up the Green Fasa deck list for set 5. Having a blast playing this deck. Definitely looking forward to seeing how it does at League this week. I'm hoping for a solid placement. But what did you guys think of this deck list? Did you think it was cool? Was there something you would play differently? Do you think I should still be on some of the stuff I was during set 3, like Pluto and Kick Cloud Kicker? Do you think I should be on a more song heavy build, not playing Mufasa at all, and just go play that totally different deck? I think that deck is absolutely viable as well. I'm sure you guys have seen it with the muses and all that stuff, making your opponent discard, play Prince John. But that being said, thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And when you see those toys, video games, and sweet, sweet Mufasa Lion Kings off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.